The bottom line, the tools are there. Subpoenas, contempt, oversight muscle. If Congress really wanted the Epstein files, they can have them. But the choice they're making right now, it's about protecting the rich and the powerful, not delivering justice to those young victims of Epstein and Maxwell.
I kind of feel like Dan Parsons. Dan Parsons lost his job on the conservative talk radio show in Lincoln for using the F word. You know what the F word is? Facts.
Hey, it's Dan Parsons with the Go Fact Yourself Fact of the Week. But first, a reminder, we're having a party, and you're invited. On Tuesday, September 23rd, we're celebrating our 1-year anniversary with a live recording of our 100th episode. Join me and VIP guests from the show at Lincoln's newest cocktail bar, the Sideshow Speakeasy in the Haymarket. Doors open at 5:30, and at 6:30, a live recording featuring fan favorites State Senator Danielle Conrad and GOP political consultant Ryan Horn, followed by Matt Wynn from Flatwater Free Press. He'll interview me. Kind of scary. It's a free event, but space is limited, so you'll need a ticket. Follow the link in the notes to reserve your seat. And don't wait, we're already about halfway sold out. Okay, on with my rant. As you may know, earlier this week, I asked Congressman Don Bacon if he supports the release of the Epstein files.
I'm for just give it all over, hand it all over, and make it all transparent. I know there's some concerns that maybe there's some victims and their names. Maybe we could black out the names of the victims. But other than that, it should be totally transparent and put it out there. And I frankly think there's probably not a lot of embarrassing data in there, because if there had been data on Trump, it would have been released by Biden. If there was a lot of data on, say, Clinton, it would have been leaked by now by this administration. Yep. So I personally think if there's any really embarrassing data in there, it would have been leaked a long time ago. But for that, I think it should be totally opened up with maybe the victims' names, blackened out or something like that. And just give it to the media, give it to Congress, and let's move on.
So now Congressman Bacon is back in Washington, and he and his colleagues, they got a problem. The public is still demanding answers and justice. Here's the latest from Congressman on the Epstein files. He says the vote he took on Wednesday, which was a resolution to compel the Department of Justice to release the Epstein files, is actually better than signing Congressman Massey's discharge petition, which would compel the release of unclassified materials from the Epstein case within 30 days. So my question is why? Why is the resolution that Representative Bacon and his colleagues passed better than a discharge petition? Well, he says it's because it works through the oversight committee, which already has subpoena power. In other words, Bacon is saying, look, this isn't just symbolic. We've got a committee that can legally demand the files, and this resolution backs them up. Here's how the congressman explained his vote at a news conference that I attended on Thursday.
This rules vote that we had directs the oversight committee, and that's Chairman Comer. I talked to him this morning to verify what I'm saying, but directs the oversight committee to use a subpoena power to get all the data, not only for DOJ, but from other areas that would have anything to do with Epstein. The discharge petition only deals with DOJ. We've cast a wide net. So we've asked the oversight committee to use its subpoena power, bring in all the files, not only DOJ, but beyond, and to make them public. We only ask that the victim identities get masked, but the rest of it should not be masked. And so that's the task of the oversight committee. I thought that was good. And so I support that. But I was reading last night when I was voting till 11 o'clock last night. And I was reading some of the articles saying this is symbolic, it's non-binding. So I was like, well, I haven't heard those words used during all the debates and all the discussions we had all day. So this morning I went back to leadership. I go, Is this symbolic or non-binding? They go, no, we're directing the oversight committee to do this. It's a directive. And I talked to the oversight committee chairman, Chairman Comer, and he goes, no, my job is to, and he wants to do this. So none of us like the folks who victimize these young ladies. So we want to see accountability. We want transparency here. But Chairman Comer made it clear to me, his job is to subpoena and get as much data, all the data that's out there, and make it public, but protect the identities of the victims. So that's what we did. And then I get asked, why not do the discharge petition anyway? Well, it's more limiting than the oversight committee. But I would ask for those who are pushed on this, you got to realize you have on the Massey discharge, you got 3 people who signed on to it. You got Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert, and Nancy Mace. That's it. And I'm not used to having all the media and people say align with these folks, and I'll leave it at that. So I think enough said.
All right, thanks, Dan. Marjorie Beck with the AP is up next.
Good afternoon, Congressman.
Hello.
How are you? I'm going to follow up with the question I put in the chat about why not support a measure to simply release all of the Epstein files. And my follow-up would be, you address that somewhat here. And if I understood correctly, your take is that the resolution provides more information than simply releasing all of the Epstein files would. I think you're going to have to explain that to me, because if you release all of the files, presumably unredacted, how are you going to get more information than that?
Well, right now, the discharge petition that is supported, the Massey discharge petitions was supported only by Marjorie Taylor Greene, Nancy Mace, and Laura Boebert. I think these are folks that you've not probably lined up behind in the past, and I'm not. But that said, it's only asking for DOJ information. Chairman Comer is given authority here to go after all sources, anything dealing with Epstein files. And so it's not just DOJ. He's got the subpoena power, right? And so on the House side, okay, I can pass this discharge petition. Is it going to pass the Senate? We don't know. Is the president going to sign it? I don't know. We don't know if you're going to get anything done that way. This way here, we've empowered the oversight committee. We don't need Senate approval. I don't need president approval. But we empowered him, says you go out, subpoena, get all of the files, not just DOJ, but beyond, and you're going to make them all public. But we're also very clear that you need to mask all the victims' names and identity. And we think that that's important. Now, some of the concerns out there, what about people who were not guilty, but were in these files? I really don't. I think that will sift itself out fine. If somebody's in there because they went for dinner or something and they can defend it. I don't really care about that, frankly. I'd rather have everything transparent, put out there, protect the names of the victims. But we see it as being directed to the oversight committee. It's more comprehensive. It protects the victims. And if we didn't have anything like that, maybe I would consider the discharge petition. I got to tell you, when you're in the majority and you go against the speaker, you should do it, I think, carefully. And in this case, he came up with a plan that I think is better than the discharge petition. And I think it's involving leadership that I am comfortable with. I'll just put it that way. So I think it's gonna be more comprehensive. And I guess to be candid with you, if I'm gonna do a discharge petition when I'm in the majority, I'm gonna do it on Ukraine, and I'm gonna do it on secondary sanctions on Russia and terrorists. I think that if I'm gonna use one of my silver bullets, that's what I'm gonna use it on. In this case, I have legislation that's passed, and we've given a clear directive to the oversight committee to take this on and release everything they get. Everything. Just mask the names.
Well, he's not wrong that the oversight committee has teeth. They can issue subpoenas. They can hold officials in contempt, and they can even sue in federal court to enforce compliance. So I'll give him that. It does have more muscle than a discharge petition, which really just forces a floor vote on a bill. A discharge petition doesn't by itself make DOJ hand over anything. But here's the problem. Congressman Bacon's vote was for a non-binding resolution. Non-binding. It doesn't actually force DOJ to do a damn thing. It's a message, not a mandate. And let's not kid ourselves. Trump's DOJ can and most likely will just ignore it. Meanwhile, the discharge petition, while messy, would at least force the House to vote on a binding bill. A bill that, if it passed both chambers and got signed into law, would require DOJ to turn over the records. That's the difference. One path risks confrontation with leadership and the White House. The other avoids it, but carries no guarantee of results. So when the congressman says his resolution is better, what he really means is that it's safer. It keeps him in good standing with leadership. It avoids the political fallout of bucking his party and the president, and lets him say he's doing something, even if the victims are still left waiting for real justice. The bottom line, the tools are there. Subpoenas, contempt, oversight muscle. If Congress really wanted the Epstein files, they can have them. But the choice they're making right now, the choice Congressman Bacon and others made yesterday, on Thursday, I guess, it's about protecting the rich and the powerful, not delivering justice to those young victims of Epstein and Maxwell. In fact, let's remind everyone about those victims, because you know what? You know who keeps getting lost in all this talk about Jeffrey Epstein, the files, and the politics? It's the victims, young girls who were preyed upon, trafficked, and abused, while powerful men look the other way. And every time Congress drags its feet, every time the Trump DOJ hides behind excuses, those victims get ignored all over again. This isn't about a debate over resolutions or discharge petitions. It's about human lives that were shattered. These women have waited years for the truth to come out. And instead, they watch the same system that failed them once fail them again and again. So let's stop pretending this is about files and politics. It's about those victims, girls who were trafficked and abused while the powerful protected each other. And every day Congress stalls, every time Trump's DOJ hides, those survivors are told again, your pain really doesn't matter. Justice delayed is justice denied. And these women have been denied long enough.
Jenalisa Jones.
Shantae Davies.
Courtney Wild.
Anushka DeGiorgio.
Lisa Phillips.
Haley Robson.
Marina Lacerda.
We see 7 survivors here today. Brad or Brittany, can you give us a sense of how many young women you can say for sure are survivors of Jeffrey Epstein?
I would say we know the names, identities of over 300 safely, and that's probably half.
And 250 of those who one of us has personally spoken with to confirm they're in fact victims.
Many of those victims, some for the very first time, spoke out this week at a massive news conference on the steps of the Capitol. Every delay, every excuse, every politician playing games, it all says the same thing. Protecting the powerful matters more than protecting the vulnerable. That is a disgrace. And until those files are out in the open, until the full truth is told, those victims will never get the justice they deserve. So we'll keep holding those in power to account. So thanks for tuning in. I really appreciate it. Now, please go do good things. I'm Dan Parsons.